Like, should I go work for Home Depot, Uber Eats?
Oh yeah, this guy's legit. One of the things I was thinking about, and this is kind of like a hunch that I have.
No, beat it, loser.
Oh, whatever. I'm just gonna go for it.
I was like, why did I say yes to this?
Yeah. Fabian, welcome to the Influencers Podcast. Dude, so excited you're here. You're on the show, dude. Welcome.
Yeah, man. I mean, thank you. Thanks for having me, for the invitation.
Dude,
it's honestly an honor to be
absolutely,
here. So
dude.
I appreciate, you extending the invitation for sure. Yeah,
absolutely, dude. Okay, so one thing that I can't help but admire about you is like your tenacity and this like no nonsense, no excuses kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And so I've been watching you, the last year as you've been building your business, which has been incredible. You've exceeded 6 figures as a real estate agent, which is kind of crazy. And we'll talk a little bit more about that because the market wasn't very easy.
Yeah, it's insane, but yeah.
So I'm like, dude, Fabian is doing something that's working. And so I feel like a lot of the listeners are going to want to hear, just your input on that, how you use social media, how you leverage that to really build this, this business. And now you have referrals and now you have clients. And so many things. But one of the things I was thinking about, and this is kind of like a hunch that I have about you is, are you introverted? I feel like you're pretty introverted, right?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm introverted. And so I think I love that about you because it's like, because I understand that side of you. I'm like, dude, I think about a podcast. I think about today. And if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, dude, I don't know. Why did I say yes to this? Why am I doing this?
Trust me, I was about to text you. It's like, hey, can we reschedule?
Dude, I totally get that because I feel like a lot of people that are introverted like us make the excuse that, they don't want to show up. They don't want to, show their face, their voice, and they just rather be in their own, little place where privacy and just, chill, like pretty much.
Where you're comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Be super comfortable. And so I wanted to ask you as we kind of kick this off is like, what was the thing that kind of changed your mindset, and just like made you go all in? Because as I've seen you, man, I feel like you just went all in. You dove into this. And so what happened there?
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. I think just knowing myself and my personality, I remember when I first saw Steve on social media and I was like, I'm going to go to that brokerage and I'm going to do something like that. But I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I wasn't made for the spotlight like that. And I mean, come last year in March, right? I had my full-time job. Yeah. I was comfortable behind the scenes of my corporate job, that's cool. So on and so forth. And I got laid off. So that was kind of a turning point in my career. Because prior to that, right, I had conversations with my wife about what I wanted to do in real estate and how I wanted to go all in on real estate. And she was like, well, you're not being all in. You're not going all in. So how do you expect to provide when you're... And that was a lot of confrontation to me. Yeah. I had to, swallow that one. Yeah, forgive her a little. No, but I love my wife. Shout out to my wife, Maris. Dude, she definitely encourages me a lot. And honestly, if it wasn't for her and her support, this wouldn't have been possible. But yeah, just going back to when I got laid off, right? That time where I had to literally start grinding. I remember that day I got laid off is March 5th or something like that. Yeah. I went straight to the office. Yeah. And as I got there, Steve was like, well, what are you going to do now? And I was like, well, I guess go all in on social media. Yeah. He's like, well, how are you going to do that? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I hope you could teach me. So in a nutshell, I dove into it, posting more often, getting out of the comfort zone, which was a lot of work. And it's something that I'm still walking in as we speak right now. Coming here, like you said, I was thinking, I was like, why did I say yes to this? But we're here. Yeah. So dude, that's so cool. I feel like these are the moments, right, when you say yes to those hard things, things that maybe challenge you, maybe make you feel uncomfortable, like you were saying. Yeah. And I look back in my life and I'm like, every single time I said yes to one of those things, whether it was like teaching a class, and it's like, there's this all these elements of like, okay, there's one thing to do videos and then there's another thing too. Now you're speaking to classes, and then people are looking at you sometimes like with these serious faces and you're like, why am I putting myself through that? But then at the same time, like I look back and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I did that because I feel like I got better at communicating. I got better at engaging with people. Yes. And then sometimes you have those one-offs where like people are asking you questions in the middle of the class, interrupting your, your lesson or whatever you're doing. And then you have to be sharp, right? Yeah. You have to be like in the moment and it just helps you grow. And so one thing, as you were talking about just all of this change that you had in your life,
one thing that I'm reminded of is like this quote that I heard is that tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so I feel like you've really owned that. And, you know, just can you even like speak onto the importance of, you were talking about your wife and just how important it is to surround yourself with these environments that make you better. Like you were talking about elite real estate and how being like going into that environment like really just helped you break out of the shell. So like how important is that, and like, you know, how did you take some of those things, you know, for your own life?
Oh, definitely. I mean, whoever you surround with it's literally what you produce, fruit, right? And surrounding yourself with a culture that's going to motivate you, not only to be a better person, but to be better in your business. It's going to 100% pay out. So I think people that think that maybe they're comfortable in their team or they're not really producing much, I really do encourage them to really think about where is it they want to take their business and who could they surround themselves with. Because a lot of those times doors will open just because of the circle that you're in. And I'm very thankful for everybody around me that supported me. I remember coming into the office with you and I there and just talking, and I was picking your brain. So I'm really, you know, thankful for what you poured into me during that time where I felt like I was lost, right? And coming into a business where I wasn't doing it full time, I was only doing it part time. So I had a lot to learn. So it's so important, not only at your job, but outside of your job too. Your church, your friends, your family, all those folks are the ones. It takes a village to build, you know. So even from that, I tell people that it's important to really see who you're surrounding yourself with.
That's true. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. There was this thing I was like thinking about too when you were first starting, you know, and the times when you were coming into the office and all of that. I remember you were trying like for sale by owner and all that. Remember that? And then I was just like thinking, man, what a grind. Like that's like, I think about cold calling. I'm like, no, it's already hard enough when I get a DM from someone and it's like, you know, they're interested in working and I just got to get on a phone call with them and talk to them. Even that's still kind of like, you know, like, oh, I have to talk to someone. I have to, you know, be all excited and, you know, all this stuff. I can't really be introverted on a sales call. It's kind of hard to sell someone, you know, when you're kind of like just monotone. So with that being said, you know, how did you like figure out that going all in? Because really you were going in all in, I feel like, on a lot of things, right? Because you were trying to figure out what works. And we had another episode and we were talking about how marketing is like, you know, you're throwing out a bunch of fishing lines and just trying to see what will bite, you know? And so I feel like you did that. You were trying for sale by owners, you were trying open houses, you were doing all of these things. And then all of a sudden it seemed like people were biting on the social media stuff. So like, how did you, you know, figure that out? And then what made you decide, I'm going to go? Because honestly, that's the one thing that actually costs money, right? So you're going for the thing that's actually costing you money. So like, how did you like break that down and, you know, go for that? Yeah,
I think for me, it was like you said, nothing else was biting. I was trying the for sale by owners. I was getting called names there. So I was getting destroyed.
What was the worst thing they called you, dude?
Some lady, I remember, it was like a $1.5 million house. And it was just, you know, I was like, I'm going to get this listing. She was like, she literally told me, no, beat it, loser. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not calling anybody ever again.
You're like, I'm done for the day.
It's like, Steve, I'm going home.
Jeez.
But I feel like
those. Did she ever sell the house?
I don't even know what she did. I just blocked her.
It's probably still listed.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. I was like, wow, how old do you have to be to call someone? But anyways, besides the point, going back to what you were saying about social media, what shifted in my mind was that whenever I was showing up to places where my sphere was watching me, they were like, oh, I see your videos. Oh, I see what you're doing. I see that you're building a business and you're actually providing content that's educating me. That's good. And as soon as you shift that mind from being perfect and having everything squared away to just being yourself on social media, I feel like people see that. And that builds trust quick. Because I mean, you can have a 1 hour conversation or you can have someone on your social media just watching you every day. And by the time you meet with them, they're like, I feel like I know you, you know? And with my family, it was that in my sphere. And that's how I started getting leads.
Yeah, that's awesome. Would you say that, for the person that's out there that's like trying to figure out social media and like deciding if they want to do it, would you say that, social media, because this is what I believe. I believe that when you're doing social media and you're going out there, putting yourself out there, whether it's educational stuff or really just like talking about things that make you seem like you know what you're talking about, like the professional in that field. I feel like people forget that there's a psychological thing that happens when, whenever, like, for example, I'm doing educational stuff on how to build your brand, how to shoot content on your phone, stuff like that. Like, I know that I'm doing it because it's placing me as the authority in that space, right? Yeah. Because people are gaining value from it, but they're also seeing like, oh, Danny knows what he's talking about when it comes to video, photo, and how to market yourself. And so then whenever they kind of maybe hit a wall and they're like, I don't know how to go past this threshold or go to the next level, they're like, hey, Danny, how much does it cost to do videos like this? Or, can you help me with like consultation and stuff like that? And so I feel like there's this thing that happens when like you're building your brand. Yeah. And so do you feel like, that happened to you with your sphere? Like people were like, oh, Fabian knows what he's doing. He's.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was, to me, what made sense, when it clicked as well was when I had a friend of mine who was already working with somebody else reach out to me about a question they had. And I'm like, well, why didn't you ask your person? But I think it's because I was able to build that, trust with them and just educating them on a daily basis, right? So and I'm still getting better at that. I feel like I need to do better at posting stories about what I'm doing on my daily routine rather than focusing on the perfect reel, right? Or the house video. I feel like you get so much value out of stories, and I still need to get into that. I guess get a little bit more comfortable in that sense. But definitely, yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I want to celebrate you because I feel like I have been seeing you on your stories. Even today, before you came in, you walked into the real estate office and you were like, hey guys, starting my day off early, went to the gym. Now I'm here at the office for a little bit, actually going to film my second podcast is what you said. Yeah. So I remember because I watched it, you know? So I'm like, I'm literally repeating everything you said on your story. And so like, that's the value behind it, Sometimes I feel the same way, man. I'm like, oh gosh, people do they really want to see my, my coffee video? It says workflow, but bro, it's crazy. Cause like people actually see it and then they'll mention it in like real life when I'm talking to them, somebody was asking me if I drank coffee and they were like, oh, actually, yeah, you do. I see your workflow video. And so
and even if the person is bothered by what you're doing, you already won them over. Like you're like, I got you. Cause you're watching myself and you're talking to me about it. So it's a win-win.
Exactly. Because you'll have people that are, obviously support you. But then you also have people that follow you, watch your stuff that maybe don't support you. Maybe they're competition. But it's okay, right? It's like
it's all motivation.
It's all motivation. They're silent engagers. And that's totally cool.
Hey, real quick, I hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as I am. As you've been watching my videos, maybe you've been asking yourself, how can I make my videos look this good? Well, Elite Media is a full media and production company where we offer to shoot your content at our curated studio here locally in Fort Worth or at your preferred location, where we will bring our professional equipment to level up your videos. Maybe you're looking to set up your own space. Well, we actually help you source, order, and set up your space with the best gear to get you that same professional look every single time, all for a one-time cost. If you're interested in learning more information, you can find out how to reach us in the show notes or the description below. Enjoy the rest of the show.
And so with your content, as you kind of were talking about it, one thing that I observed with you, Fabian, is that you kind of broke away from the mold of what every other agent was filming. And I feel like it was intentional. It's your personality, but also like even creativity that you have, that you bring in. And so I remember seeing videos of you like by the creek, like some random video, you're by the creek, the library giveaway that you did, you're in the library and stuff. And so like what kind of like made you get out of the mold of like, I'm not just going to do a typical property video. Like I'm going to be creative and, keep the person watching the video.
Yeah. For me, it was honestly building my brand. And that's the biggest thing, because that tells your story and that tells who you are as a person, right? And if I'm able to break out of the robotic, like, hi, welcome to my listing, or hi, I don't know, this is a new home. Like just breaking out of that, I feel like people will feel more comfortable reaching out to me. And it also lets them know that I'm human, right? I'm doing like you said, a video on a creek. Like, my point wasn't to like, obviously my point was to educate you, but also try to get your attention. Like, what is this guy doing on a creek with a hat? Like, anyways, I saw this podcast today, yesterday actually, with Mark Zuckerberg, and he talked about how many people go through his social media. So Meta, like Instagram, Facebook. He said about 3.5 billion people go through his social media a month.
Crazy.
So if you think that you're gonna get leads from external sources, like, no, it's social media is where it's at.
Yeah.
So,
dude, that's awesome, bro. I feel like so many people misplace a lot of their efforts. I was gonna say even money, but really it's their efforts. Like, a lot of people focus on all of these other avenues of marketing, and it's fine. Like, they should be doing all those things, but then the one thing that's like free, they neglect.
Yeah.
You know, like, it doesn't cost you anything to show up on your phone. Yeah, we're talking about maybe more high-end videos where you're hiring someone to do video for you.
Yeah.
But the reality is, like, people can just show up on their phone. Like you were saying, stories, they're free and they're easy, and they only last 24 hours. So if you said something dumb,
they're gone.
Dude, it's gone. You know, like, unless you put it on your highlights. But I'm like, it's gone. You know, people are going to forget what you said, but they're going to see your face every single time. Or whatever it is that you're doing. If you're doing a walk-in video or if you're doing a coffee video, like, they'll remember you for, what that is. And so one thing that I was like just wondering, how does like that creativity flow for you? Like, how do you like approach, these types of videos? Do you sit down? Like, what are you doing? Are you on the toilet? Like, what's it, what's happening?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think with social media and being on there, right, all the time, sometimes you can start overlapping ideas. So I try to stay away from that, in a sense of, like, if I see a video and I'm like, I like this, but I don't like this. So I try to nitpick it, right? And I try to make my own thing out of it. Because at the end of the day, we all have kind of the same ideas, right? It's just how we kind of communicate them and how we tell the story. So for me, it always comes down to writing it down and coming up with like a script. That's so good, that's what helps me.
That's awesome, dude. Ecclesiastes says that there's nothing new under the sun, and so like a lot of people try to like reinvent the wheel, but it's like, no, just take what I always tell people, like, you're not a consumer of content anymore, you're a student. So now every time you look at something that you really like, save it. And then now on Instagram it's cool because like you can save things and then you can put categories. I have a bunch of stuff like wedding edits, Photoshop stuff, and I have it all categorized, so that way when I'm like, oh, I need to do this, and I have it saved on Instagram, so I'll go over there, and then now I'm a student of the content, and then I'm taking things like you said that are like my flavor, right? My style, and not so much copying what somebody else is doing. So I love that, dude. What was something that, like, you, even as you kind of went through 2024, maybe you kind of figured out some insecurities you didn't know you had? Like, what were some insecurities maybe that you kind of hit a wall with and you overcame, and that maybe you feel like others are dealing with, and how can you help those people?
Oh man, I hate listening to myself. Like that story you saw today, I recorded it.
Oh really?
I heard the beginning of it. I was like, I'm just gonna post it. Like,
there you go.
And it's literally that. Like, listening to myself was my biggest insecurity, because I could see how I would communicate, and I'm like, I'm not really telling a story. I'm really choppy. I'm saying a lot. And I still do it, but like now I'm more aware of it. So I think even though it was an insecurity to listen to myself, it still helped me. So I encourage people that even though if you have insecurities, those insecurities might even encourage you to get out of your circle and see what you're doing wrong.
Yeah, that's so good, bro. I feel like, man, I think you just hit it on the head. It's that how to get over that insecurity and that fear is to just do the thing, right? That scares you. Like, you're here right now, maybe there was like a thought in the back of your head that was like, maybe we should cancel or postpone. But you're like, no, we're just going to do it.
So, hey, Danny, I got a flat tire.
Yeah, seriously, dude. And so it's like, I think about those things and like how many excuses we go through every single day to not do the thing that we know we're supposed to do. And so, and I'm always telling even just like Malachi and just my wife and my family is like, I'm doing what I'm doing is like, not because it's a job or it pays my bills. I'm doing it because like I feel called to do this, you know? Like I feel like like if I were to go to heaven today, like God would literally ask me what I did with the gifts he gave me. And I would have to give a response, you know? And so I'm like, that's why I'm so passionate about this. Yep. It's as important to me as someone's ministry. It's as important to me, you know, as, you know, just these other things that people are called to do. And so I love that. And so I wanted to also ask you, like, kind of going back to the beginning, you know how you mentioned you lost your job.
Yeah.
So like how, you know, we were talking about excuses. I just mentioned excuses. Like, how did you kind of like, you know, get out of that mindset or that rut where I feel like just the way you did it, you didn't really like let yourself grieve a lot. You were just like, oh, whatever, you know, I'm just going to go for it. And so like, what did you do? Like, what were some things, like some practicals that, you know, you lost a job, man, that you were comfortable with, probably making decent money. And now you have to go into this career of real estate that you just have to build from scratch. And so what were some things that you just kind of applied and, you know, did?
Yeah, to me, honestly, I think my relationship with God had a lot to do with that, right? I think bringing my frustrations to him, and even though he knows my heart, but bringing it to him kind of served as a venting place for me. And I knew that I was doing it wrong at the beginning because I was lashing out on either like my wife or people around me, because I was frustrated that I got laid off and how I got laid off by the people that I got laid off. So that sense of betrayal, right? I kind of used it as fuel to say, I am actually going to prove other people wrong and that I'm capable of getting outside my circle, my comfort. And I'm going to prove those around me that I am actually capable of doing something that no one would have thought. And I always talk about my wife telling me that, you know, that I wasn't doing anything. And she was part of it. Like, she used to pull my ear all the time. And I was like, but she's great at making videos. She used to do spoken words and everything. So she's great. She gave me tips on how to do it and all that. But at the end of the day, for me, it was my relationship with God and knowing that, you know, if I'm not grinding, if I'm not working, and the word even says it, right? You got to be proactive with your faith, because faith without works,
it's dead.
So it was a matter of that and realizing that I needed to work for my family, because at the end of the day, if my goal is to provide generational wealth, I need to put in the work, because nobody's going to give me anything.
Dude, that's crazy. You know, what's interesting is, like, we're not going to dive into it too much, but like, even like after the Israelites were taken to the promised land, like the first thing they had to do was work. Literally. And it's like there's a gift in it, you know, in working and stuff. And so I think a lot of people miss that, you know, and I love that you're just sharing about the grind. You know, I think, you know, really just like you were saying, you went through a hard thing of your job loss, right? And then you go into real estate. And it doesn't get easier, right? Because the market is tough. Because the market was really tough in 2024. 2023, 2024 was like more of the same. So, dude, like, how did you do it? Like, what made you like stay in it? You know, because a lot of people went into it thinking they were gonna like crush it. They saw others that were crushing it, and thought it was gonna be easy. That's the thing. It's like when you're doing something so well, you make it look easy, and so then others want to do it, and then they realize, oh, it takes a lot of work. So, what were some things, bro, that just kind of kept you in the game?
Yeah. So for me, it was, so before I got laid off, I asked God to open a door for me to go to real estate full time. And I remember that prayer after I got laid off, and I was like, dang, this is not how I wanted it, but here I am.
Answered prayers, bro.
Yeah. Wow. But that was something that kept me in line. And another thing was, so right before I got my first deal, which I got laid off in March, my first deal didn't happen until July or August.
Okay.
So it was a lot of months.
So your first deal didn't happen until July, and then you still like broke six figures.
Yeah, it's insane. Like, I have no words to how that happened, but here we are.
Crazy.
Yeah, my first deal didn't happen, and up until that week before, I remember I was signing up for Uber Eats. I was like, I need to do something.
That
like,
faith was being stretched.
Yeah. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, should I go work for Home Depot, Uber Eats, do something in the meantime to generate some type of income while I'm driving around doing showings, doing this, showing houses for other people, recording videos. And I remember that week, I just went to record content, and I went to a random house. It was a beautiful house in Haslett. And one of my friends was like, hey, how much is that house? I'm like, oh, this is this much. He's like, oh, well, that's out of my budget, but I think we want to go see houses. Can we go today? And I'm like, sure, let's go. That's awesome. And literally that's how my first deal happened. But what kept me in line was literally that word and that prayer that I had, and the mindset that I had that I was going to make it in real estate. Yeah. And I think that's what separates people from, because you can want something, but if internally you don't believe it, like it's hard. You're going to start thinking about other options.
Dang, dude. That's crazy. Dude, there's something powerful about what you just said, even in your story, is the power of your yes, right? So like you were talking about how you went to go show this house, you know, or I'm sorry, you were doing a video on your house and this and whatnot. And then somebody reached out. Yeah. And they were like, hey, you know, it's out of my budget, but I want to go see houses today. Dude, I promise you, like 80% of agents that would hear that, you know what their first response would be?
Let's get you pre-approved.
Exactly.
I was like,
dude,
nope.
Yeah, I'm like, let's go. You know, because the mindset is, I'm going to get content out of this. You know, maybe you get a little story. I'm like showing houses.
And I did.
Yes, let's go. Yeah, that's awesome. So like I always told my wife, you know, there was a time where I did like real estate with referrals. And so sometimes it was just people you've never met and you meet them for the first time, you know, in person, showing them a house. And bro, I had people ghost me a couple of times after I showed them houses, you know, man. But I told, you know, after like I got over, you know, my hurt feelings, I kind of would look back and be like, you know what? I posted on my stories. I got content out of it. It wasn't a total loss. Yeah. You know? And so I think that's where like a lot of people miss it, bro, is they're not all in the sense that they won't say yes to everything. You know, same thing with us in the video business. Like there were certain shoots where I was like, but I'm like, I know I'm supposed to say yes to that. And those yeses opened up other doors, other referrals. And so I love that you said that, because a lot of people miss that opportunity by saying no or being lazy, you know, and they're just kind of like, let's get you pre-approved and whatever. So dude, I love that so much. So Fabian, for the person that wants to jump in on content, you know, like start doing content, obviously you have a lot of people, just even in your sphere, from what I've seen, that like are like, oh, I want to get my license, you know, and all of these things. And so like, what would you tell, like, even whether they're real estate or in any other like business, you know, what would you say, like, if they want to get into like creating content, what are some just practical things that you said? I think we hit one of them where it's just like, just do it. You know, you'll get better as you keep doing it. So what are some other things that, you know, maybe you'll just have them?
Yeah, depending on what type of business you're in, at the end of the day, you got to post. And the biggest thing you need to do is create your story, your brand. Yeah. Whenever they see your face, who do they, you know, what do they associate you with? Is it the agent that disappears and doesn't post for the last 2 months?
Come on.
Or the agent that's constantly there bothering them about market updates? That's good, bro. What's going on with your life? Yeah. So on and so forth. At the end of the day, if you're not building your brand, you're not building a business. Yeah, that's good. And to me, I'm still there. I'm working on it, and I'm talking about it with confidence, but I'm also working through it. Because at the end of the day, I am still figuring it out. I've only been doing this for a year. Like there's so much for me to learn. That's crazy, and I know that God will allow me to experience those, you know, those areas where I'm gonna grow. But for now, what I could tell people is focus on your story, because that will build your brand, your reputation. People will earn your trust, and whatever it is that you're doing, they're gonna want to go with you because they know you more than that other person that's a random referral.
That's good. Yeah, dude, that's awesome. What would you tell, you know, someone, because I think a lot of times too, like you were saying, building your brand, you know, a lot of people think it's a business card. A lot of people think it's a logo, it's a website. And like, dude, honestly, I used to think that. Even like, even as like I was listening to some podcasts, and like we're talking about how websites like are kind of becoming obsolete a little bit. There's certain like places for them, but man, socials are just big right now, you know, social media platforms. Like it's hard to beat those, you know. So I was just like thinking about, you know, as you're building your brand and stuff, like what were some things that you did in 2024 that you're probably gonna keep for this year, or what are some things even that you might even change and maybe level up on?
For me, I wanna keep my stories. I wanna keep doing more stories. That's where I wanna dive in, because I feel like there's a lot of value there. People tend to see those more often than when they're scrolling. So I want to keep that I want to dial up on a lot of that perfect content, because I feel like now, and I could be wrong, a lot of the organic content, like just raw footage, long form videos could be on the come up again. So I am going to start diving into that, into YouTube, long form videos, lives on Facebook, all that stuff that's raw and people can see who you really are, rather than a chopped up video that I had to say 1,000 times. I feel like that's something that I want to implement next year. But yes, I had a thought and I lost it about social media. So you touched on the Fesbos. And talking about business cards and websites, right? On how people think that that's building your brand. When I reach out to Fesbos now, and this is the craziest thing, I send them my Instagram.
Cool.
And I've gotten so much traction off of that compared to what I was doing before. What I was just sending them a picture of me.
Bro, that's a hack, man, for every realtor. And if they're not doing content, they better start building their portfolio. Dude.
Literally. Because people will be like, well, who's this random person saying that they're going to sell my house and they want to earn my business? They'll click on your Instagram. They'll see who you are. And it'll tell them everything you need to know.
And I love, because even on your Instagram, you have, obviously you have your listing videos. You have just other videos, educational stuff I've seen you post. You also post closing videos, which is huge. Dude, there are like just a handful of agents that I'm seeing that do closing videos. And bro, that's like literally like, I could say almost anyone could get a listing, if you sell the client on telling them that, you can sell their house for, so many dollars, they'll probably say yes, and the house might sit and it'll never sell. But the cool thing about closing videos is like, hey, I actually closed this client, we went from point A to point B and it's done. They have a house or they sold their house. And so, dude, I love that. I love that there's, just the proof in the pudding, they'll look up Fabian Centeno and be like, oh yeah, this guy's legit.
He's walking the walk.
Yeah, dude, let's go. So that's awesome. Okay, dude, as we kind of wrap up, what are your thoughts on the market this year? Like, obviously every realtor's like, it's going to get better, so, but if it doesn't, like, obviously you're in grind mode, you're in building mode. So like, whether you have more of 2024 this year, I feel like you have the mentality for it, the mindset for it. But what are your thoughts? What are your predictions? What do you expect?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess I'll put it out and see maybe if it comes to fruition down the road. But with interest rates just maintaining, right, I feel like people are just going to start realizing like, hey, this is what it is. And if I have the money to buy a house, they're just going to go into it. So I think this buyer's market will take a shift towards the end of the year, because people will realize like, hey, the situation might not change as fast as we thought. And we need to stop spending our money on rent. So my prediction for 2025 is that it'll become a seller's market. Dude. We'll see though. That's awesome, dude. Okay, that's a bold statement, because how it is right now, oh man.
Yeah, it's like, I know, and I feel like nobody knows, right? Like, I mean, it happened during COVID. Like, everybody thought things were gonna crash, and it just went up. Obviously, we had inflation, but still, I mean, a lot of people made a lot of money in 2020 and 2021 in real estate. But dude, that's awesome. So, and then also one last question I wanted to ask you is, are you using AI? Are you implementing it in your workflow? Like, how does that look for you?
So I have for a couple of my reels. Cool. I was like, I don't have an idea. Can you help me? And I kind of shared what I wanted to do, and they kind of helped me with like the script, which was awesome. And I've used it in that sense. I also have used it for ideas on how I can lead generate too, which is crazy. That's awesome. But I think people need to dive into that. Some people are resistant. They're like, AI is going to take over the world. Well, it's here. So
dude, you just got to pivot, so many things, dude. Awesome. Well, where can people find you? Where can they, find your socials and stuff?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram, realtor.fabian, and or Facebook as well. I have LinkedIn, YouTube as well. So, but my YouTube's not as active, so I need to get better at that.
Dude, we'll keep you accountable. Well, dude, Fabian, thank you so much, bro, for being a part of this. I feel like a lot of people are gonna grow from this. So, dude, you're awesome. Excited for you in 2025. Can't wait for you to crush it.
Thank you, Danny. It's a pleasure being here. So, thank you.
Absolutely.